Hello and a big welcome back to the Resources Conservation and Recycling webinar program. My name is Mitchell Jones. I'm the outreach editor at the journal. It's wonderful to have everybody with us here today. We're joined by Melissa. Very, very fortunate to have Melissa with us today. Thank you for coming. So before I kick things off, I'm going to cover a few introductory notes on the program itself. This is the English language version of the Resources Conservation and Recycling webinar program. We also have a Chinese language version of this program, so if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out. This program is run every second Thursday at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. Now, there's been a slight exception over the last couple of weeks, or 3 weeks actually. We've done it every week. We've had a little bit of a bit of a mix-up with some public holidays and such, but we're returning to the fortnightly frequency as of next presentation. So this program matches the scope of the journal. And we also like to run a very balanced program, so you can expect to see equal weighting for the different scope elements in our program. No particular preference for any particular element of the scope of the journal. The one thing we do ask our presenters to do is to provide to try to make their presentation a bit more accessible to a broad audience where possible. We all yes, it's a narrowly scoped, it's a technical journal, but there are a range of facets to that scope. Also from people from different research areas, and we really want this program to be something that benefits the scientific community of the journal. And for that reason, we try to aim for webinars that are hitting a broader audience, or that at least are accessible to a broader audience. So we ask to refrain from too much jargon, too much field-specific terminology, and to provide some introductory content that covers the fundamentals of the research area before diving into the more specific details of the study that's being performed. Registration for this program is necessary. You can find the registration links in the Resources Conservation and Recycling newsletter, which is circulated at the end of every month. Or you can also find them on the official social media pages of the journal. That's X, Facebook, LinkedIn. Or you can also find them on the Elsevier Journal homepage. So if you go to the journal homepage for Resources Conservation and Recycling, you visit the About tab and then Webinar Calendar, you will find all the links for the upcoming events there, in addition to all of our archived events. So all of our events, all of our previous speakers, they're all archived to YouTube. You can find the links through that webinar calendar, or you can visit the YouTube page directly, youtube.com/@RCR journal. You'll find all of the archived webinars there. The final point is that we want this program, as I said earlier, to be useful to our scientific community. It's a service for our scientific community. And as such, we very much value your feedback. If you have things about this program that you find really good, if you have things that you hate, please tell us. You have the opportunity, everybody has the opportunity to do that. At the end of the webinar, you will have a survey open when you close Zoom. And in there is an 8-question survey. Most of those are multiple choice questions, so just to not take too much of your time. Won't take more than 1 to 2 minutes to fill that out. But there is also a text box there. So if you have specific comments, there is the opportunity for you to also provide those there. Okay, so that brings me out of our informal remarks, and I'm going to start the program by sharing my screen. So we've had the welcome address. Now we're going to have the formal introduction to the journal, an introduction to our speaker, Melissa. I'm looking forward to introducing her. And then a few brief notes on housekeeping, followed by the 20-minute presentation, question time, some information about the next event, and the closing remarks. So hopefully everybody here is already familiar with the journal Resources Conservation Recycling. If not, that's also good. Now you know about it. It's an Elsevier journal, and I like to say that the clue to our research interests is really in the name. We're interested in everything resources, conservation, and recycling. Specific scope points are listed here: systems-wide strategies, technological, economic, institutional, and policy focus, resource management practices, conservation, recycling, and resource substitution, resource productivity improvement, restructuring of production and consumption profiles, and transformation of industry. If you have any top quality research in those areas, be sure to submit it to us. We would love to see it. Today, just a few housekeeping remarks. If we could please have all communication in English. We have always a very wonderfully diverse audience from a range of countries with a range of languages, very beautiful languages, but unfortunately we all need to be able to communicate. So if you could please drop your comments or questions in English, that would be greatly appreciated. We do have closed captions though, so both in Zoom and also on YouTube. So for example, if English is not your first language and you feel like you might benefit from some captions, or if you're on the train and you want to watch the webinar without the audio, they are there for you. Be sure to use them if you would like to. There's a Q&A section in your toolbar where you can post all your questions during the course of the presentation or during the Q&A time. Be sure to drop any questions that you have in there. I'm sure that Melissa will be excited to answer them. We also are more than happy and very glad to be able to offer you the opportunity to speak to Melissa directly. So if you would like to actually, not be so impersonal with the text, but would rather actually have a proper chat to Melissa, maybe you have an open discussion or some questions that you'd like to pose in person, we'd be more than happy for you to do that. You just have to indicate you're interested in doing that using the raised hand reaction in your toolbar, and we'll activate your microphone so that you're able to ask your questions in person. So our speaker for today, we're very lucky to have Melissa MOLLICA with us from the Sapienza, University of Rome, Italy. Now, Italian is a very beautiful language, and I hope I haven't butchered any of that too much, but that's my attempt at it. So her presentation is going to be on the topic to cooperate or not to cooperate, strategic analysis of industrial symbiosis. Melissa MOLLICA is a PhD candidate in management and industrial engineering at Sapienza University of Rome, where she earned both her Bachelor of Science and Master of Science in Management Engineering. Her research focuses on industrial symbiosis, game theory, and agent-based modeling. She's published in ecological economics and resources conservation and recycling, investigating strategic behavior in industrial symbiosis contexts. She also serves as a teaching assistant in courses on environmental economics and industrial systems. Thank you so much for being with us today, Melissa. I'm going to now stop sharing my screen and turn the floor over to you for your presentation.
Okay. So, do you see my presentation?
Yep, looks great.
Okay. So, hello everybody. First of all, I would like to really thank for the opportunity to present this paper in this webinar today. It is truly an honor for me, and thank you to all the audience for choosing to listen to me today. Mitch gently already introduced me, so I will skip that. Here we can see the agenda of what we're going to see during the presentation, but let me quickly just start by introducing the context of this work. So, as many of you probably already know, industrial symbiosis is a well-established strategic tool that companies can adopt in order to make their production processes more sustainable, in line with the broader objective of making of the transition toward the circular economy. Specifically, industrial symbiosis consists in the reuse of byproducts, wastes, water, and energy across different industrial activities, with the aim of obtaining both economic, environmental, and social benefits. Indeed, industrial symbiosis contributes to the triple bottom line by reducing the amount of waste to dispose in the landfill, and also the consumption of virgin raw material. And this leads to savings both in waste disposal costs and in input purchase costs, but also helps with the enhancement of social well-being and allows for the creation of new job opportunities. Despite the huge potential of industrial symbiosis, the real-world implementation of industrial symbiosis is still scant, and this is due to a number of financial, technical, organizational, and legal barriers. So what can we do about that? Well, many of these barriers are worsened by the lack of a clear strategic framework. Basically, companies, maybe they would like to implement industrial symbiosis, but they don't know how to do it because they lack of a clear strategic direction. Indeed, in the literature, there are several business models available for implementing industrial symbiosis. Specifically, we can choose to send the waste to an external partner, implementing an external exchange strategy, or we can use the waste within the company boundaries, implementing an internal exchange. Moreover, we can choose to use the waste to replace a production input through the input replacement approach, or we can use the waste to create a completely new product. So despite these different strategic options, the literature today seems to focus almost exclusively on the external exchange input replacement approach. But are we sure that it is always the best approach for industrial symbiosis? Well, let's imagine that we are a waste producer. So we can find a partner, share the costs for implementing industrial symbiosis, and start a cooperation. But to do that, we have to find the right partner. We have to negotiate the terms of the exchange of the waste. We have to build trust and to share benefits other than sensitive information. Alternatively, we can decide to exploit the waste within the company itself to create, for example, a new product. In this case, there is no need to build trust nor to share anything with any external partner. However, we have to bear alone all the costs for implementing industrial symbiosis, so to treat the waste, to manage the waste, and also maybe some investments might be required. So there is a trade-off, and here comes our research question: to cooperate or not to cooperate? The idea behind this paper is to shed light on these two different strategic options. How do we answer to this research question? We followed a number of methodological steps. So first, we modeled the strategic options available through an enterprise input-output based approach. Then we developed a game theoretical model that we solved analytically in closed form. And then we also performed some numerical simulation in order to have some insights from the model results. So let's dive into the model, which is the core of the paper. Here we can see company alpha and company beta that are represented through an enterprise input-output approach. So basically they are black boxes that produce one main output, requiring one primary input and generating one waste during the production process. For the sake of simplicity, we assumed linear technical coefficient of substitutions that relate the amount of waste produced or to input required to the amount of main output to produce. In this baseline scenario, there is no symbiotic interaction between the two companies. So each company serves a distinct market, A and B. Now, let's imagine that company Alpha decides to implement a cooperation strategy. So, through an external exchange, company Alpha send an amount of waste to company Beta that uses the waste to replace its production input. In this case, the amount of waste exchangeable between company Alpha and company Beta is the minimum between the amount of waste produced by company Alpha and the amount of waste required by company Beta. If there is a mismatch between the waste and the supply of wastes, then company Beta has to purchase additional primary input from traditional suppliers, or company Alpha has to dispose of the waste in the landfill. In the competitive scenario, instead, company Alpha decides to reuse the waste internally. So in this case, the amount of waste reused is the minimum between the waste produced by company Alpha and the internal demand of waste of company Alpha itself. Even in this case, we can have a mismatch. So, or company Alpha might have to purchase additional primary inputs from traditional supplier, or company Alpha might have to dispose of the excess of waste. Well, thinking about this inefficiency, actually, we thought about a third strategic option. Why should we dispose of the excess of waste if we can profitably sell it to our competitor, which is company Beta? Indeed, in this case, you can see how both company Alpha and company Beta compete on market B. Because company Alpha starts producing the same product as company Beta. So here we have a third strategic option, that is the hybrid strategy, in which there is still a competitive approach between company Alpha and company Beta. And even in this case, if there is an excess of waste, it must be disposed of in the landfill. So once we have modeled the material flows, we can go through the theoretical model. Basically, company Alpha has to determine whether to compete or to cooperate with company Beta, and the optimal production quantity for product A and possibly also for product B, with the aim of maximizing its production, its profit. Indeed, the company Alpha is a rational economic agent. Of course, we made a number of assumptions. So at the beginning, both companies are monopolists in their respective markets. Complete information is ensured. We assumed, for the sake of simplicity, cost, production, and demand function to be linear, and also that industrial symbiosis is economically convenient, meaning that the emerging costs for industrial symbiosis, that are the costs for treating the waste and for transporting the waste from company Alpha to company Beta eventually, are lower than the costs, the ceasing costs from industrial symbiosis, that are the disposal cost of the waste and the purchasing cost of the primary input. I won't go deeply in detail, so in the full formulation of the model, but I will briefly describe the external exchange strategy, where we have basically a two-stage game in which company Alpha first anticipates the decision of company Beta, and therefore knows the waste demand. and then maximizes its own profit through a backward induction approach. To solve the problem in closed form, the problem had to be decomposed according to the match between supply and demand. So the profit function has been divided into two main regions, and for each we found an optimal solution, of which just one is admissible, which is the solution of the strategy. The same approach is followed for the competitive strategies. Just a quick note is that in this case, company alpha and company beta compete à la Cournot in market B. So it means that they choose simultaneously the amount of product to produce. And just to have an idea of the complexity of the model, I reported here the decisional flowchart of company alpha, where basically to solve the problem, so to know which is the best solution for company alpha, we have to calculate the optimal profit in each scenario, eliminating those strategies where we find a non-admissible solution, and then choosing the one that provides the highest profit. So in order to gain some insights from the model, we performed a number of numerical simulations to understand basically which factors can mostly affect the profit of company alpha, so its decisions. We built a full factorial design by combining 7 levels for 6 variables of interest. Specifically, we considered the maximum willingness to pay for product B and the inverse of the demand elasticity for product B, which is related to the market B size. And these two variables are representative for the characteristics of the market where possibly company alpha can enter. Then we have the additional cost of industrial symbiosis, the waste treatment and the waste transportation costs, and the unit input purchase cost for product B and the investment required to enter market B, which are actually the costs that should be incurred in case of choosing the competitive strategy. So once we performed the simulation, we made the regression on the profit of these variables separately for each strategy. And here we have a recap of the main results. The most interesting, as we can see, are that the willingness to pay and market size of the market where possibly company alpha can enter have a positive effect on company alpha profit, whatever the strategy. However, this impact is highest in the case of competitive strategies. On the other hand, the additional cost of industrial symbiosis always play a negative role. However, this negative effect is higher in case of competitive strategies because in this case, company alpha cannot share the cost of industrial symbiosis with a partner, it has to bear it all alone. The input purchase costs have a positive effect on the company alpha profit because it increases the competitive advantage of company alpha over company beta, while of course the investment has a negative impact on the competitive approaches. But what can managers understand by these results actually? Well, that cooperation is not always the best choice in case of industrial symbiosis. So specifically, if we have a waste that can be turned into a valuable product, for example, or ways for which a large demand exists, it could be a good idea to try to exploit it in-house and maybe entering into a new market. Of course, we should consider that this requires investments, this requires risks and other costs, but this might be an option. Moreover, if we choose to compete, so to enter into a new market and have a competitive approach toward industrial symbiosis. In some cases, it should be also an option to sell eventual exceeding waste to competitors. This is because we have a trade-off between the reduction in the competitive advantage that we have in this case, because we are providing our competitor with a less expensive resource, and other types of costs, for example, waste disposal costs, but also costs related to, for example, environmental concerns. So even in this case, of course, we have to evaluate. This work has also some policy implication. Indeed, we know that governments are making lots of effort to promote the widespread adoption of industrial symbiosis. But they should be aware that different tools might lead to different market responses. So depending on the type of incentive, for example, that they provide, they might push companies toward different kind of approaches toward industrial symbiosis. For example, reducing the transportation cost might lead toward cooperation, but financing or helping reduce, subsidizing investments, individual investments for companies might push them toward competitive approaches toward industrial symbiosis. Of course, this work has a number of limitations that basically are due to the assumption that we have made inside the model. For example, companies act as monopolists. We use the price as a sole decision variable for consumers, linear function, complete information. We believe, however, that future research may address this limitation with the aim, with the ultimate goal of creating a robust strategic framework that might help companies in decision making in the field of industrial symbiosis. And thanks for the attention. That's all.
Thank you so much for such an interesting presentation, Melissa. I have to say that industrial symbiosis is something that's new for me, and we haven't actually had a lot of that kind of content on the program yet. So I'm very excited. I will note that the question time is open. So if anybody would like to ask a question, feel very free to either drop it in the Q&A chat or to raise your hand if you would like to speak directly. But while we wait, in case people might want to ask, oh, Talib has his hand up. Talib was also here last time. Very nice to see you again, Talib. We'll come to you. Before we move to the audience questions, I have a few questions for you also, Melissa. I thought that just in the spirit of, we have people, that work in materials science, we have people that work in LCA, people that work in all kinds of different things. So I thought maybe you did talk a bit about industrial symbiosis as a concept, but I thought you might just want to take the opportunity to really just in a couple of sentences, very briefly, just what is industrial symbiosis to you?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. I think that industrial symbiosis is really an opportunity that the industrial systems should consider to date. I believe that the idea behind this sharing, this reuse, not just in terms of cooperation, but also optimization of the resources that we have available, is really the key for the transition. I believe that it requires a change of the state of mind, maybe, of the industrial systems as a whole. But only if we really understand through this somehow imitation of the ecological world, what can we really do with what we have, we can make some difference.
Very nice. So, and I sort of thought, just leading on from that, so industrial symbiosis, so when does it work? When doesn't it work? What can it do for us?
Well, of course, there are many limitations of industrial symbiosis. It is not something that we can implement either way. I believe that it depends a lot from the kind of research that we have available. For example, there are some kinds of resources like energy, water that should be reused in close proximity, for example. While I believe that there are some other resources that also can be shared from very, very distant, and unrelated context. Also, I believe that it is important to make it also together with the urban environment, so to involve community and cities, of course, inside these systems in order to make the flow go from the industrial context to the urban context, and so on.
Okay. And I sort of wondered, you performed some mathematical modeling in your study. I wondered if you perhaps wanted to talk a little bit about how you go about designing a mathematical model for a study in this kind of area. What you look for, which models to take, the advantages, disadvantages of different models, challenges, limitations when trying to model this.
Well, of course, adopting game theoretical models has a number of limitations. We have to make some assumptions. So the assumptions will limit the scope, of course, of our analysis, and the results that we obtained are affected by these kind of assumptions, as I was saying. However, I think here the best, the most important thing to do is to really understand what we want to focus on. So we have to understand, of course, in the world, everything is important, but in the real world. But in our model, what are we interested in? So we should try to simplify as much as possible those things for which maybe we are not too interested in. We can think about it later, maybe, and focus on modeling more in detail those mechanisms that are more important for us to show what we want to show or to understand, of course.
Mhm. Okay. And if you had some advice for somebody who wanted to model something like this?
Well, some advice. Actually, I am not an expert yet.
In the making, an expert in the making.
An expert in the making, I hope. I believe that it is always possible to improve. We are wholly here to do something like this. And if someone wants to start, well, to focus on basic things at first. So to start with something that is not too complex, because otherwise the model will explode somehow. And yes, starting from this to try
Okay.
to be simple, despite the word is not simple.
I wondered how well these models correlate with empirical results. Has this been investigated?
Well, actually, as I was saying, the main focus of the literature is on cooperative approaches toward industrial symbiosis. However, there are some case studies in the literature that reports examples of new product development. So companies that reuse their wastes internally. For example, we have the Gitan group that started to produce toilet paper from sugar, for example, and started completely a new business. So actually, it implemented a competitive approach because now he's competing with companies that made toilet paper too. But the literature did not focus on this aspect. So I believe that it's interesting to investigate also the effect of doing something like this. You have a market and then you have mm, many other possibilities to exploit.
Okay, perhaps one last thing before I switch over to, we have a couple of people from the audience that would like to talk to you. How do you validate your model?
Well, the model was validated through the numerical simulations in order to gain some insights. I just the theoretical model was solved analytically. So this is just the solution. Of course, in closed form, it is impossible to have one solution for this kind of complex models. So the only way to understand something is through simulation.
Okay, I'm going to throw things off across to Talib. Hopefully, Talib is able to join us now.
Hello, Michelle. Can you hear me?
I can,
Yeah.
Talib.
Right. I
Thank
do
you.
not know if the camera facility is there. I want to turn it on, but I don't think it is there, correct? I don't see it.
You know what? I can just promote you to panelist and then you should be able to turn it on.
Okay.
Is that working now, Talib?
I can see now. Okay. Well, do you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so very much for this interesting presentation, Melissa, and thank you, as always, Michelle, throwing up very good questions, leaving nothing for the audience basically to ask. Okay, I have few thoughts, but I'll do them in 2-3 points, and then I'll leave it for the rest of the audience to follow, rather than I take the whole time. We are talking about optimization, Melissa, between different factors here, correct? In order to establish an optimal solution where
Yeah.
company A or company alpha and company beta, they both benefit off the back of each other.
Yes.
Okay, so it means we will be looking for an optimization between the two companies, even if it is within the company. So there will be a range of factors which would be either technical, non-technical. They could be enabler to produce optimization. They could be a disabler towards optimization. Plus, they can be categorized into social, environmental, and economic. Very good that you brought triple bottom line into it. So, from your presentation, of course, the work is a lot more. This, what you have presented, is the tip of the iceberg, as far as I can understand. So, have we got a range of all the factors which are either social, economical, or environmental, and further categorization, technical, non-technical in each category, and then even further, enabler or disabler. So that kind of nomenclature. And I'm not expecting, or I'm not saying that all the factors will be included, but it could be a good idea to know the entire range that we can think of. Of course, there is more which we do not know. We'll find out later as the science of this develops. So, do you have that huge chunk of all the factors? And then you say, well, we have chosen these ones to create this model with a reasonable degree of complexity or simplicity to be. That's one. And other is, did you think of which software package you have considered to use? Not necessarily by yourself. For example, MATLAB, as I've learned from my students. In fact, my students are my teachers. They use MATLAB to optimize between different factors. Some are in favor of each other, others are not. So did you use it, or are you planning to use it? At what stage your research is? Which links back to the validation point, which Mitchell was asking. The validation, you said it is numerical, but has it taken place yet, or it will be taking place because PhD is underway? So this is what I'm saying. Yeah, please.
Okay, yes. Thank you for the question. Well, the optimization of the model is just economic because the model focus on the is a game theoretical model. So it is based on the idea that companies want to maximize their profit. So I just consider the economic aspect. However, of course, it can be a possible future advancement of the work of doing these of those strategies, of course, and also maybe the social, technical, everything could be eventually included. However, the complexity that we have seen is just for the economic part. About the software, actually, yes, I already used the MATLAB in order to perform the numerical simulation and also to help to help having the results. I also use the Mathematica, which is another tool that helps with the numerical and numerical equations, you know.
Right. So you'll be running those two packages, software packages, on the same data set, so that you can compare against each other as well. Is that the idea?
No, actually, I use the Mathematica just for the analytical part, and then I performed simulations with MATLAB because we did a lot of simulations in order to have, you know, statistical significance with the regressions.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Marlis. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yes, I have more questions, but I will not ask. I'll ask. Let the other audience members ask, please. Yes. Thank you, Michelle.
No problem, Talib. Wonderful to have you with us again.
Thank you.
I actually think that the other audience member who had their hand up was Leonardo, and perhaps their question's already been answered, or they accidentally put their hand up. I'm not sure. So I'm not going to activate Leonardo's microphone unless they indicate. Oh, they do. Okay. Well, then let me activate Leonardo's microphone, and you're there, Leonardo? Would you also like your camera?
No, the answer was the question was answered in relation that Talib was asking. So thank you very much, and congratulations, Melissa. It was a very good presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonardo. Okay, then I'm going to mute you. Good. So I think. Oh well. I always like to have. So looking at research vision, Melissa, before we as the final points to the Q&A. So thinking about your research area in terms of the industrial symbiosis from a field perspective, so from the corporate, the actual embodiment of that field, and then thinking separately from it as a research area perspective. So two different things, one being researching that field and the other being the actual problem at hand with industry. What's stuck? What are the core challenges and what needs to happen?
Well, that is a really good question and tough question. You know, I believe that there is a lot of research to do that we have still to do. There are lots of things that are not explored yet because the field is quite recent. So, you know, at the inside the industries, there are lots of barriers, and the most important one, I believe, is the resistance to change. You know, companies are doing these things from since many years, and maybe they don't want to change their mind. But also another great limit is the information. I believe that there is no enough communication between the research and the industrial activities. So many companies, especially in Italy, where we have lots of small and medium enterprises, don't even know about the existence of this kind of field and this opportunity for them. They don't know what industrial symbiosis is. Of course, they cannot implement it, and also to have an intermediate role, and also to share information and to provide the financial incentives, because at first we have to do some investments to make it possible.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Okay, well, unless there are any more questions from the audience, that brings us to the end of our program for today. I will share my screen now to give the final closing remarks. So, first of all, a very big
Michelle,
thank
can I have just one quick one before?
Yes,
because I thought
Talib.
somebody, yes. Melissa, just you have used the word strategic in your title as well as in. Could you toss some light on it? What if you try to? I know it is of a good use. I can understand that, but imagine you did not use that word. What are you going to lose? The reason I'm asking is so that I can understand better why you have used that word to cover what implications of the subject matter, the word strategic.
Well,
To make it simple. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
The objective, you know, the long-term objective, the vision of the company. This is strategy, because, you know, if you start to cooperate with someone else, or if you start to compete in a new market, you are taking two different strategic directions. You cannot do it without thinking about the strategy, because what you do have long-term implication. It costs a lot of time to implement, to decide what to do, also to study before, because you cannot just say, okay, I have a waste and I use it to do.
Right.
You have to do lots of research about it.
Right. So
So you have to have in mind a strategy, a path.
okay. So it is not going to be one-off and here's a waste. Okay, let's do something about it. Something which is
Yeah.
happening on routine as a routine. I mean, something is happening along the timeline again and again. So we need to
Yes.
cover
Where are
long-term
you
planning.
going?
Yes. So in terms of planning over time as a company strategy for future that way on the timeline, and maybe also what types of ways how the market fluctuates. So also strategy will have so it will have to be strategic. It can't be just you pick one ways and go with it. Cool. Thank you. You have answered the question. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And also you have said that these companies can work together, even though they are competitors of each other, which is a brilliant idea. If I could use the romantic language of Jesus, you are basically saying we should love our enemies. So the companies can begin to love each other. And it is a good thing. I mean, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, basically, you know? So that's the idea. So thank you so much for that romanticism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Very
Michelle.
nice. Thank you, Talib. A very nice close for the Q&A as well.
Thank you.
Then I'm going to, where am I? Here. So thank you so much, Melissa, for such a wonderful presentation, and thank you for coming. Thank you also to all of our audience members and Talib for his great open discussion there also. The next presentation, or the next program will be from Ehsan Vahidi from the University of Nevada in the US. They're going to be talking to us on the topic of unlocking sustainable lithium, a comparative life cycle assessment. That's going to be Thursday, August 14th, 2025. So in a couple of weeks from now. Feel free to join us then for another
Michelle, would you be
stimulating-
sending the invite? Would you be sending the invite through the email circulation, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
So the invites are always available exactly 1 week in advance, Thursdays, on the social media, and also through the Resources Conservation Recycling newsletter. Also the
Okay.
webinar program, email campaigns. Yes.
Okay, cool, super.
So everyone can keep their eyes open for those.
About
Thank you
that.
everyone for coming very much. I'm looking forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you, Melissa, again for coming. And have a good evening.
Thank you very much for
Very
the
good topic. Yes, thank you.